Let's see a few hands up. Now, how many of you have gotten a hug from me today, before, or will soon? That's everybody. So I'm going to ask the question again. How many of you actually know me personally? That's everybody's hands again. I want to start off by making sure you realize we're not separate in any way. We're already connected at the most intimate level possible. It's not just because of the hug, it's because we all showed up here tonight. Something drew us here, something brought me here, something brought you here. It may have been the promotion, but I think it was a resonance in your heart. I think it was something that said, I'm going to go and see what this guy's about. And it may not even be something I say, it may be something somebody next to you does or says. But you're here, you showed up, and that's why we're connected. In that idea of connection, I want everybody to move a little bit closer. If you have a beanbag in front of you that's empty, move to it. Getting close.
Yeah, it's like my
Easy. You finally slept last night.
Huh?
You finally slept last night.
So some of you may have heard that I spent a year, 365 days, silent, not speaking. I didn't retreat into a cave or up on some mountaintop. I continued living my normal life. I continued to be amongst people, be social, do my work. I just didn't speak. I got to discover something in that silence, in those pauses between thoughts, between actions, between words. You might start to feel it already. It's this charge that starts to happen. It's electricity in the air. Sometimes we confuse that as awkwardness, but it's potential. See, when we create space, when we allow expression to come through, by opening the space for it, then the most brilliant, inspirational, passionate, heartfelt things can happen. I'll make a little confession to all of you. So, I came up here on stage just now with absolutely no idea what I was going to share. And I love that. Because see, I'm up here to share with you how to connect and express from the heart, which means you can't plan that. What I can do, though, is drop in with you, take a journey with you. You get to see where it takes us. So whatever I share today, take it as simply the truths that I've experienced. And then ask yourself the same questions that we're going to go into. Let them be the experience that comes up from you. So as Amir said, this idea, this philosophy of love is not discovered, but it's uncovered. That came up like the last week of my silence. It took all the way to the very end of my silence to finally get the idea and the answer that I was looking for. Because I went into that silence searching. I wanted to see where the foundation, where the base, the empty canvas was. Where love, connection, communication, expression. I wanted to know where that came from. Let me backtrack a little bit. I'll share with you kind of the story of how I got to the going into silence and what I got from it. So about 5-6 years ago, I was living in San Diego, California. Now I live in Bali, Indonesia. And in San Diego, I had a holistic center, community center. We would give talks like this all the time. And I was really thriving. I had almost the guru title going on. I had a bit of an ashram. I had written a bunch of books. Things were good. And then in a flip of a switch, I lost the center, I lost the tribe, and I found myself kind of in this empty space going, okay. And I found myself definitely in a lot of debt, about $20,000, $30,000 in debt. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do the only logical thing you can do when you've lost everything. And you're majorly in debt. You leave the country. And I went on a world tour, and I ended up in Bali. Now in Bali, those of you who have been over there, you know that it has a magical energy. You can go there empty-handed, like I did. I arrived with $57 in my pocket. I've been there 4 years now. And I've got to live in these luxurious villas. I've got to eat amazing food, and there's an amazing community there. So I stayed, obviously. I kind of forgot about the debt. It's like what Vishen says, where if you really focus on the bigger picture, on your vision, the other problems just kind of wipe away, they dissolve, they get smaller. So there I was in Bali, and about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I was going back up to that level of life was grand, life was on a roller coaster. It was this amazing, amazing time. I had just done a TEDx talk. I had just released another book. I'd just been contracted to do this web project for a Bali Green and Clean, sanctioned by the governor of Bali. And I was in this amazing relationship. She had just told me I was going to be a father. So I was on a high again. Here's the thing with life. For every up, there is a down. And that's not a negative. It just means that you have to learn how to gracefully fall. I hadn't quite learned that yet. So the end of 2010, where I thought I was going to be coming out of that year with a new baby, family, and this thriving practice, that's not what happened. We lost the baby, I lost the partner, I lost all the deals I was doing because I got really depressed. And I lost a part of my heart. And so, when that partnership finally really separated, it was like, okay, this isn't, we can't reconcile this. That's when I decided to go silent. Most people, when they ask me, why did you go silent, I say, well, to go in, to feel where the heart is. The real reason, personal, deep, vulnerable reason, I was in pain. And I know human nature. I know that when we're in pain, we start looking outward to external things, whether it be food or another person or whatever it is that fills that gap. But you see, when we feel it from something external, those expressions are temporary. I didn't want something temporary. So I decided to go silent for 365 days to go in and find out, where does love come from within? And almost to the very end of it, after searching and looking and feeling, and I definitely got many insights and ideas and things that I never would have thought I would. It wasn't until the very end that something just popped up. And it was this idea that love is not discovered. Love is not given, it's not taken, it's not received, it's not shared in any way. It's a vibration and a resonance that's there all the time. And all we actually do is we uncover it. Because it's there, vibrating inside of you right now. So whether you lose something, whether you gain something, it doesn't change how love is in your life. So I've got to take this now and finding that, figuring that out, having that feeling in my own being. I realized that the best way to actually share it isn't just through words. I'd been silent for a year, I knew that words weren't that important. But the very best way to share it was just by being in my heart. Getting to share from there, getting to hug from there. Embrace life and each other. And there was a second thing that came through really clearly, and it was that to uncover love isn't a process of digging deep, it's not a process of removing layers. It's actually a process of just stop fighting against it. We have all these stories, all these conditions, limits, beliefs that keep us in this struggle against the love that we already have. It's like it pops up, it's like, love right here, we're like, yeah, no, I want that one over there. We're looking for it in a certain form, and it doesn't always come in the form that we can recognize. I'll tell you a little side story. I like telling stories, and during the year of silence, I wasn't able to tell any stories, so now I can tell them as often as possible. Years ago, I had the privilege of sitting in on a seminar with a Dogon chief. Now, the Dogon tribe is an ancient Kemetic tribe. It's like pre-Egypt. And these guys really knew their esoteric knowledge. Like, they were deep into nature, into metaphysics, quantum physics, if you want. They really had it down. So here's this Dogon chief giving us this lecture. And there was this gentleman sitting behind me, raising his hand. He's like, okay, so I know you guys were really good with plants and plant medicine. Can you tell me how you knew what plants were for what medicines and this and that? And the Dogon chief goes, yeah, we would ask the plants. The guy's like, okay, that's nice. Was it like the color that they shared with you, or was it like the shade? No, we would ask the plants. This went on for like another 20 minutes. That he kept trying to dig in and figure out, well, come on, give me the facts. Give me the replicatable way of doing this. And the Dogon chief just didn't. He just kept giving. It wasn't a vague answer. He was actually doing a really clear answer. Finally, the guy got really upset. He stood up, frustrated, and left. The Dogon chief looks at us and he goes, it's a shame. People come and they ask for answers, but they don't take the seed that grows into them. You see, let's say you went up to somebody and you asked them, how do you make fire? And they said, we have to plant a seed. You'd be like, no, I asked, how do you make fire? Yes, you plant a seed. Now you might be confused right now, but you need a seed to grow the plant that grows a tree, to break the branches for kindling. See, there's steps that happen. Those steps, your heart knows. It knows it all the time, and it's directing you. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's loud. That's like when life hits you with a 2x4. And you might think, oh, why is everybody hating on me? No, that's your heart going, I've been trying to tell you. When you start to listen and you let go of the form in which your destination is going to be. It's okay to have goals. It's okay even to have expectations. Just don't get attached to the form in which they will appear to you. Because they might appear like a seed, might appear like a tree, might appear like a branch while you were looking for fire. But you have to take the step each way. They call it the invisible yellow brick road. You don't know who you're going to meet along the way. And those connections are so much more important than getting to that wizard at the end of the road. Because guess what? The wizard was an illusion. That's what our destinations are. The form, that's maybe an idea that you had. And especially here at Mindvalley, you guys have these brilliant ideas, and when you start to put it into form, it becomes even better. Beyond what your imagination could have come up with. That's because you took each step along the way. You grew, you learned, you connected, you brought in the field effect of everybody involved. See, that's actually the easiest way to discover the heart, to know where the heart is. Just start letting yourself connect to the moment, connect to the people, connect to the feeling. And it's really telling you exactly what your heart's saying. Sometimes we get stuck in roles and identities around this, and that kind of stops us. I'll tell you another story. Years ago, I was back in San Diego, and I was sitting next to this beautiful Italian woman who I'd been friends with for a couple years, and I had this major crush on her. But she had this Italian boyfriend who was actually in Italy. We were in San Diego, so that was even more frustrating. And I remember we're sitting there sharing an acai bowl at a cafe, and she's telling me about how she's invested so much into this relationship, and she gives him all her love, all her heart, and he rarely ever expresses anything back. And in my mind, all I'm thinking, I'm kind of sort of hearing her words, but I'm actually just thinking, God, she's beautiful. Then a second thought comes in and goes, but I can't tell her. So that's not my role. It's her boyfriend's role. I can't say that. It would be awkward. It would be out of place. No, I can't do that. And here she was, just yearning, craving, wanting love. And that's when something just struck me. See, we let our roles and our identities limit us. We ignore the things our heart is saying because there's this mental thing that says, no, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Why not? I turned to her finally because it was just heartbreaking for me not to say something. My heart started shouting, and I just turned to her and I said, do you realize how beautiful you are? She looked at me, and she took my hand, and we just sat there silently for a bit. What I realized in that moment of absolute, beautiful, intimate connection was that our roles are simply the web of connections we have. Our roles don't mean that it's just a back and forth. See, we're connected to everything. So while she was giving all her love to this guy ran these beautiful, amazing dance events in Italy, and he put all his love and heart into those. She needed her for that support to build him up, to share that. She needed me at that moment to share my love with her. I like to think of us all as angels, and we have messages for one another. Those messages are those moments that your heart goes, say this, do this, hold this, embrace this, go there, go here. It's because you have a message to give somebody. And it may not even be the person that's right there with you. It may be down the ripple effect of the connections they're going to have later. So if your mind gets in the way and says, no, I can't, or just put that away, actually. Because your heart already knows. So I promise you guys some breath work. I like breath work because with any tool, whether it's breath work, qigong, meditation, yoga, any kind of personal growth tool, for me it's really just a tool towards awareness. It's to become aware of what's already there. Energetically, lovingly, the beauty and radiance that's already in you. It's just so that you can chip away the stuff that's distracting you from seeing it. So breath work is the same way. Now, with breath work, it's something that you got to do more than just your usual day by day unconscious. I think I even once kind of started channeling a gospel preacher in my breath work. So it's like, breathe like your spirit's in you. So we're actually going to start it that way. I want it to be an expression of your being. And so for that to happen, I'm going to do kind of a call and response thing. It's called kirtan. You guys ever heard of kirtan? Some of you? So kirtan is devotional chanting. It's a way of taking your spirit within and chanting it out in honor of the spirits out. Whether they be higher, lower, equal, it doesn't matter. That's all hierarchy in the mind. So when I say breathe, I want you to say breathe. We're going to build it up. We're going to start now. Breathe. Breathe. Breathe.
Breathe.
Breathe.
Breathe.
Breathe. Look around. See the smiles happening? You ready to touch your heart? It's that easy. We're going to go even deeper now. For this, to actually really go deep into this breath work, I got to give you a few disclaimers. We're going to be bringing in so much energy and so much oxygen into the system that a few things are going to happen. First, your mind is going to be blown. Second, you're going to start feeling a lot of energy in your system, and there might be some new sensations. And sometimes when you get new sensations, you either get curious or you get a little scared. You're like, what the... For some of you, it happens to about maybe 3% of individuals in breathwork. There's this thing called tetany. What it means is it's a constriction of the blood cells because so much oxygen is coming in and squeezing the toxicity out. So if you had a late night partying last night, you have to grow that percentage. Tetany looks a little bit like this. Don't worry, it's completely natural. Funny was natural. And I really actually only put it out there, even though it's only a small percentage, because the rest of you, when you see other people doing that, you'll be like, oh my god. You're gonna stop breathing. Well, I'm here to tell you that this has been given to thousands of people, and if you just keep breathing, if you move past the limitations and stories of your mind, and let your heart be, you'll find that all of that will pass, and you're going to drop into a space that you've never felt before. You guys ready? Alright. You're going to find a comfortable position as much as you can. Do a laying position. Do anything. You're not having to put an effort, but rather you just get to be ready to be taken. By the very current of life. For me, every time that I get to share this, it's so beautiful for me to watch. Because I get to see the opening, I get to see how you break through those barriers of the mind. And there's these moments of epiphany simply happen. And they're not epiphanies of the mind, they're epiphanies of the heart finally breaking through some little crack and says, and expresses something into the world, and your mind recognizes it. That's that clarity. What would happen if we could constantly clear our canvas so that we could see, feel, and be without trying? So there is a technique that's 6 breaths that takes you to the same place. Some of you are wondering, so why did we just do like 300 breaths? Because you needed to know what was there. You needed to know unequivocally that you could feel something beyond your mind. You needed to know that your heart has been whispering to you. You needed to know that it's not some long, drawn-out process of getting over stuff or repairing things or trying to figure out how the heart functions. It's simply stop struggling, stop fighting, stop listening to the stories that tell you, no, I have to go against this or I can't do this. Let the friction go. And it's just that easy and everything opens. We're not going to go into that 6 breath technique today. I'll give you guys actually on my website, you can go on there and you can find it there just because of time constraints. Plus you guys are already really high if I do that. I like to look at people and see 3 different levels that everybody has. See, there's this first level, it's the mask. It's the roles, the identities that we wear. And the mask allows you to flip from one thing to the other really quickly, really easily. And it's okay, it's accepted by society. So you can be in this like really heated debate with somebody, you're like, wah, and the phone rings, and wah, hello. Yeah, can I call you back? Now that tells you something. It means that there's a conscious being, there's something witnessing that can control and decide, okay, wait, let me put that one down, let me put this one up. Mm-hmm. Which means that there's also a story happening behind that. So the second level is your story. The story is made up of all your conditioning, all your experiences, your beliefs, your history, everything that anybody has ever told you, anything that you've come up with yourself. That's your story, and it's what you believe about yourself and what you believe other people believe about yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, the stories where most healers and therapists and psychologists and even a lot of our personal growth products, that's where it works, is in that story level, because it needs balance and it needs maintenance all the time. Now, where I hope that you just went and what I do with my coaching clients and through my books and courses and everything that I put out into the world is I want you to go to the third level, which is your essence, your being. It's whole, it's complete. It's the part of me that I got to discover after 365 days of silence. When I realized it took those almost that entire time to get past this story. And to realize there was something deeper that had never been broken, had never been hurt, that was whole and complete and perfect and pure and always is. It's the blank canvas, it's the river, it's the ocean. Everything else is just a droplet that hits the ocean and creates a ripple expression. And that ripple is important too, it's significant. That's why I don't say take the story away, but know that it has a depth. It came before the story. There's three things I always tell my students or my clients, and it's, you must first become aware. You just did that. You just became aware of your own potential, your own radiance, and your own beauty and love. Now you know it's there. The second step is accept. Now acceptance, that's a tricky one. Because we have two sides to us. We have this beautiful, radiant side that we love and we want to share. Then we have this other side that might seem a little dark, a little shadowy, a little negative. We don't want people to see that. And if you've read any books on the shadow effect, or looking into your shadow, meeting your shadow, dealing with your shadow, stuff like that, they all say you just need to accept it as part of you. That every expression, every characteristic about you is a part of you. It makes the whole. I like the analogy that, for as brilliant as your light is, it's like a tower. That tower will cast a shadow. Which means the more light, the more shadow. There is a balance. Now here's where I'm going to take you one step further than what most of those books do. So those books say accept it. And so you kind of go around and you're like, okay, sometimes I'm selfish. I accept it. Yes, I'm selfish. And then like a week later, somebody sees you doing something, like, man, that was a little selfish. You're like, no, it's not. You didn't really accept it. You decided to tell yourself that you were accepting it. That's tolerating it. See, here's where the trick is. You don't have to accept that you are selfish. You have to accept that selfish isn't bad. Selfish is just selfish. Don't put any evaluation on it. Take a look at the trait, not the person, because the trait is not the person. See, the trait is tied to a story that's tied to the person. You may not know your whole story. You may not know somebody else's story. So remember that there is something deeper. When you can fully accept and be absolutely present in this moment, not denying anything, not trying to change the moment, well, then you actually have like a homing beacon that can tell the world and the universe, here I am, tell me what my next step is. But if you're moving around all the time trying to figure out what's your next step, where do I go, how do I do this, how do I do that, how do I become this instead of this? Well, then that message, that direction, those instructions, they don't know where to go. You're running around too much. I like to think of it like an order on Amazon.com. You go on there, you're like, okay, I'm looking for the guidebook to ultimate happiness. Oh, there it is, perfect. And you're going to order it, you pay. You actually put money forward, and effort, and action, but then you don't put any home address. And you get frustrated when it doesn't come. You're like, I put so much effort and commitment into that. Why didn't it work? Because you still hadn't accepted where you were first. You have to do that first. So once you have awareness and once you have acceptance, that's when choice becomes possible. Before then, choice isn't really possible. Because you're not really in a reality, you're in a projection about what you want. So you're stepping from an unknown place. Now, choice is a little tricky too, because choice isn't about this options and many variables. Choice is actually just two things. Are you going to surrender, or are you going to resist? That's your choice. In every single moment. The universe, life, your spirit, your heart is telling you, go and do this. Are you going to surrender to it, or are you going to resist? It's normally when we resist that we're stuck in a moment that we don't like and we're trying to change it. But we're not listening to where our heart is telling us to go. So I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here and tell you, take the risk. If there is any justification, any explanation, if there is a because after something that you're choosing, that means your mind got involved. But if it's something that simply says, go do, go be, that's your heart. And it's not going to give you any justification because it doesn't need to. I love the pauses. It's in the pause that you find what's really there. It's in the pause that you let stuff sink in. It's in the pause that this ancient action happens. It's where the corners of your lips start to move up towards your ears. We call it smiling. And it just happens because you realize you don't have to be doing anything. You don't have to be a certain way. But that you, as you are, in this moment, is the perfect puzzle piece for a masterpiece. Weaving beyond your own imagination. See, we're all part of something much bigger. And I don't mean some destiny or some fate or that we have some deity that's up there going, okay, chess piece, this. What I mean is that in the connections that we have, in this web and interweaving, there is a force already moving you. Already taking you somewhere. And you're not alone. That's the beauty. I'll share another story with you. This is another vulnerable one. So, back in San Diego, I had just come out of a movie theater with my mom. And it was at a time that I was kind of at a bit of an identity crisis. And I was feeling really, really burdened with the world. Because I had this sense inside of me that I was supposed to make a difference, that I was here to play some big, big mission. And that scared the crap out of me. So here I am with my mom. We just come out of seeing, I think it was Bridge to Terabithia, a kids movie. Touching one, it got me crying. And there we are in the car, and I'm actually still crying. I'm weeping. But it wasn't just a movie anymore. It was because suddenly I had that sense, that feeling. The movie broke me through. That I can't do this anymore. This is too big. There's too much suffering in the world for me to handle. I can't do it by myself. I remember we pulled up to this convenience store. My mom was going in to purchase something, and I looked over and I saw this homeless man. And immediately my hands just kind of went out. My heart went to him. Yet my mind was still fighting and struggling, going, what can I do? What is me putting my hands out and thinking that I can help actually going to do? And the man looked over and he just saw me. He saw me crying. And he smiled. And he just kind of did something like this. He held his heart. There was a difference already made. My mom and I went home and I was still crying. I still felt like this is too much. And it was one of those like shuddering kind of tears where You've gotten down to the very last bit of core and you're like, I'm gonna die. You know? Can't even breathe anymore. And my mom, she did something that's quite incredible. Something about my mom, she's an amazing healer, energetically, and simply because she's a mom. And she just placed a hand on my chest, on my heart, and she said, just close your eyes and realize you're not alone.
While you were driving?
No, we had parked. She was actually driving. And as we sat there, and I got down to that last little shudder and little twitch, something happened that this isn't really something I share often. I suddenly saw a vision of, all I can say is they were like angelic beings, kind of like a council. And in my head I heard a voice and it said, you're not alone. You've never been alone, you never will be alone. We're here, we've been watching you, and you are just on the right path. Keep doing it. Keep going. And suddenly I just felt this amazing relief. And it wasn't because I thought that, these angelic beings were here helping me. It was just because I knew I wasn't doing it alone. And as you sit here with me right now, if you look around, you see the faces and the eyes of each person in here. That is your counsel. Those are your angels. The reason I come and I sit up here and I share with all of you is because I get to immerse myself in this energy of all of you. And I get to be reminded I'm not alone. That every message shared that comes through and out, you're going to take and ripple out. I have no idea how we're doing on time. But I'd like to open it up to questions and answers. Anything that's on your mind, whether it's a question or just a statement of your heart. Yes.
So is that I have so much love for you and every single person in this room. Just not a very many people in it, but just everyone.
Did you hear that?
No.
No,
Go
oh,
ahead and say it again.
just to have a lot of love for you and every single person in this room, even though I don't know half the people in here, but I just have a lot of love for you.
I was just saying I love you too. Yeah, I just feel overwhelmed with love. I can feel it. It's a beautiful thing. I know it's nice to be so connected, with everyone, feel that grace and beauty, that's surrounding us right now. I just feel this of something that we all see in the world. Look forward for what's going on.
Remember at the very beginning when I asked about who here knows me personally? And we realized that we all know each other personally already. We've been connected. It's not happen chance that you found yourselves here tonight, that you may work with each other, or that you may stay connected in the future. There's always a purpose to that ripple. And it's simply what's happening now. It's not a master plan. It's whatever you're feeling in this moment.
I actually felt when I came, I felt like I came home. It's just the weirdest thing ever happened to me. I don't know anybody of you guys, but it's just like I came home. I belong here. It's weird, but I love it. Thank you.
Ignited it in hundreds of people around the world. And if you can remember that when you forget, and just tap back into the resonance, It's just that easy. See, it's not a cultivation. It's just remembering.
This exercise just helped me to realize how easy it is just to connect to person, and how often we just have this roles, masks, identities, and all this kind of stuff. We're coming to office every day or whatever, we're getting a taxi and we're not talking to a taxi driver, we're not trying, asking how are you, just because we're just human beings. And I just realized it's just so easy just to come up to a person. You don't have even to say something. You can just send an energy, just, I don't know, call whatever, just smile to a person, right? And I'm really grateful that we have this event right now, because I think we should have this kind of things more often. Maybe we should make it as a daily ritual, all of us, because it just keeps reminding you that you just go out there, look in the eyes of the person next to you, and you feel connected.
Yeah.
I feel connected right now to her, so that's the beauty of it. So thank you very much for this.
Is that a question, Tony, or just scratching? That's a question.
But sometimes it's hard to put things in the words. It's I think we need to share, not just keeping in oneself. And today's session was really great to realize that. And in the daily life, everyday life, a lot of backhand thinkings kind of shading having something that really felt.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And you get a cross. And the other monk looks at her and goes, would you like help? She goes, yes, please. So he lifts her up, puts her over his shoulder, and they wade across. And he puts her down on the other side, and they go their separate ways. Well, as the two other monks continue walking down this path, the younger monk keeps looking at the elder, kind of with a suspicious eye, like, this? Oh, cool. And finally, the elder monk asks the younger, and goes, is there something you'd like to ask me? He goes, yeah. You know the precepts of our monastery, you know our practices, and we're not even supposed to talk about women, let alone carry them. Oh, you're talking about the woman that I carried across the river. Yes, I left her at the riverbank. You've been continuing to carry her this whole time. See, this is what we do. Something happens, and normally, because we don't express it, because we don't let that expression out, we don't let that sensation ripple through and away, but instead we hold it and we contract and we lock it in. Then we wrap the story as a coating of armor that says, never go here again. And if you could realize that the charge, the energy, the sensation you fear so much isn't even there anymore, that you dropped it off at the riverbank.
Cherish the feeling, yeah?
Thank you. For those of you who aren't already connected with me online, you can just go to my website, totalauthenticity.com, Heart Mission. I invite you to join the newsletter, peruse the blogs, get whatever inspiration is there for you. Thank you again.